Have you ever heard of Elf on the Shelf? It was a children's book released in 2005 that follows an elf who reports to Santa on who's been naughty or nice. Later on, they made it into a TV movie, and now it's a really popular game with kids around Christmas time. I'll never forget that elf, the one that terrorized me only a few weeks ago. I still consider it a miracle I'm here today to tell you about it. It all started the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. I just got at home with my family, Mom, Dad, and my 5-year-old brother Carson. We'd been shopping all morning, waiting in the line, trying to get the good deals, that whole thing. When we arrived home, I was the first one to open the door, and that's when I saw it. There on the coffee table in our living room was a bright, shiny red elf just staring at me. I froze. That wasn't there when we left. How did it get there? I was pushed through the rest of the door by my brother who saw the elf, but with a much happier reaction. He ran to grab it when my mother came to the door and yelled, "Carson, stop!" My brother froze and looked back at her in confusion. I did as well. My mother hurried over to the elf and said, "Now both of you sit and listen very carefully." I was still confused as hell. What was she up to? Still not knowing, I complied and sat next to my brother on the carpet facing my mom. Now this here is a very special elf, one who must not be disrespected. She then bent over and picked up a book sitting next to the elf, opened the front cover, and began to read. This is an elf on the shelf. He's a special scout elf who zips back and forth from the North Pole every night and reports to Santa on whether or not the children he's looking after have been naughty or nice, she went on. Once a family has adopted an elf, they must give it a name for it to receive its Christmas magic. Christmas magic? What a bunch of bull. I was 12 years old at the time and was well past my days of believing that Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny were real. I certainly now wasn't going to believe some stupid elf was going to come alive with Christmas magic. Each morning, the elf returns to his adopted family and is in a different place within the house, she continued. Sounds fun, huh? I was way too old for this crap. I mean, seriously, who would believe this bullshit? I then looked at my brother, who was rocking back and forth, cackling and clapping his hands with joy. My mother went on, "Now there are only 2 simple rules that all the children must follow with an elf in the house. First is that the elf can never be touched. If an elf is touched, it might lose its Christmas magic. Thus, it won't be able to fly back to the North Pole anymore. Second, an elf cannot speak or move in any way while anyone in the house is awake. Remember, an elf's job is to watch and listen." I seriously could not believe what I had just listened to. "You expect me to believe that this crap?" I objected. "James," she yelled at me. I was still looking at her with the same look a child might give when told that he had to share his toys with his brother, which I hated. "This is stupid. I'm too old for this," I said again, this time trying harder to get my point across. My mom walked in the kitchen and yelled behind her, "James, come in here now." I followed her, and when I arrived, she grabbed my arm, bent over, and looked at me square in the eye. "Now you listen to me. You will not spoil this for your brother. If you don't want to participate, fine, but you better not say anything else about it not being real to Carson, or so help me God, I'll make sure Santa does not give you any presents this year." I thought my mom was being completely ridiculous, but she generally frightened me. She'd always had a habit of doing that sometimes. I swear, she liked Carson more than me. Anyway, I agreed and it was settled. I ignored the elf and let my brother bask in his ignorance. After our discussion, we went back into the living room. My mom asked my brother, "So, Carson, what shall we name our elf?" As quickly as my mom asked her question, my brother blurted out, "Zippy, because he zips to the North Pole every night and talks to Santa and says if we've been naughty or nice." "What a great name, don't you agree, James?" said my mom. "Now you have given it its Christmas magic." My brother clapped his hands again. "Yay, Zippy, 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 Zippy." And so that was it. The thing that would come to terrorize me and haunt me still to this day in my sleep had a name. Zippy. A few days went by without incident. Every morning I awoke to laughter and yelling of my younger brother as he ran through the house looking for that damn elf. Each morning he would be in a different place, just as the book said. But I knew it was my mother moving it about every night. One morning he was in the kitchen with an arm in a cookie jar, and another morning he was in Carson's room bent over in his toy chest with his legs sitting up. I still thought the idea was nonsense, but I stuck to the promise I made to my mother. Yes, I guess everything was fine with Zippy. That is until that first night when nightmares started. It was late, and I was downstairs by myself watching TV. I started to hear a faint whisper coming from the other room. I brushed it off. The first couple of times. By the third time, I pressed mute on the remote and listened intently. I couldn't make out what it was, but was defiantly sounded like a whisper. I decided to get up and have a look. I walked across the living room and into our dining room, where I heard the whisper coming from. I fumbled for the light, and when I switched it on, I about shit myself. There, standing on the dining room, was Zippy, his rosy red cheeks and bright piercing blue eyes that were looking directly at me. That thing creeped the hell out of me. I figured my mom must have moved it there earlier that night. I shrugged it off, turned around just before I killed the lights. I heard a small thud. It hadn't startled me that much, and I turned around to see that Zippy had fallen off the table and was now lying face first on the floor. I thought to myself, how the hell did that happen? I hadn't touched him or the table. He was standing, though, so maybe his feet gave out from under him, I thought. I put it aside me, went over to the table, and bent over to pick him up. Just before I grabbed him, I remembered what my mom said about the first rule. Zippy can never be touched. I'm not sure how long I stood there bent over thinking about that. This is stupid, I thought. I don't believe in this damn game anyway. I got my senses together and grabbed the elf. As soon as I touched him, bang, the light bulb above my head blew out and I almost dropped him. Standing there in the darkness, I suddenly felt very cold. The air around me had become freezing and unnatural. The TV from the other room still on and barely illuminated the dining room. With the faint light from the other room cascading on the elf, I flipped him over and looked at his face. I stood there a moment in shock. I swear to God that his face had changed. Everything looked the same except for his mouth. Zippy now appeared to be wearing a smirk, but not just any smirk. I can't quite explain it, but it looked evil. The kind of smirk a murderer wears when he's getting pure enjoyment from killing one of his victims. By that time it was late, and I thought maybe my imagination had gotten the better of me. Before I left, I remember I was still holding Zippy. Shit, I thought. I did not want to disobey my mother, so I carefully put Zippy back in the position he was standing in on the table and left the room. I went back to the living room, turned off the TV. I turned on the hall light and proceeded toward the stairs. In order to get to my stairs, you had to pass by the dining room. I started to walk by it, not wanting to look at that thing, but for some reason, I felt compelled to. Just before the stairs, I turned and saw Zippy. This time, the hall light was shining on the part of the table where Zippy was, and there was no mistake. That fucking thing was smirking at me with his blue eyes still piercing into my soul. I hurried upstairs quickly, cut the light, and went to the room. I got into bed, pulled the covers tightly over my head. I don't know why, but I didn't sleep well that night. I knew that Zippy wasn't real, and that all this was complete nonsense. Yet, for some reason, it still bothered me. I cannot mistake what I saw that night. Still to this day, I see that damn smirk in my nightmares. I came downstairs the next morning, barely getting a wink of sleep. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I peeked around the corner into the dining room. There he was, just as I left him with his face back to normal. My mom called me in for breakfast, and as I ate, I ran through all the events that could have happened the previous night. Could I really have just imagined everything that went on? Impossible. I can't forget that smirk I saw on that little shit's face. It must have been real. Still doubting myself, I decided to keep what I saw to myself. My brother seemed to receive more and more enjoyment from Zippy each passing day, while I relented him and his stupid games. I hated everything about him. The way that my mother had continued to play with my sense of reality was not comforting either. Yet Carson just seemed to go right along with it. Then came the fucking notes. I guess my mother decided it would be a good idea to start to leave me and my brother notes around the house. Just dumb messages, really telling us to be good and that whole thing. The first one I saw was written out in M&Ms and said, "Be good," with Zippy sitting down next to my mother's creation, admiring it, as did Carson in amazement. The next I found was "You better not pout," spelled in magnet letters on our refrigerator. This went on for about a week until something changed. I'm not sure what kind of sick game my mother was up to, but the messages started to get very unsettling and downright creepy. I came downstairs one day, and again saw that Zippy had spelled out another note in M&Ms. I breezed over it at first, but on my second glance I noticed something eerie. The message again began with "Be good," but it was followed by the words "or else." I figured my mom's trying to relay the message to me this time, and I must say it really pissed me off. I mean, it's dumb enough I have to go along with this, but now to have the notes directed at me saying stuff like "be good or else," what the hell was her problem? You can't imagine my frustration with this. Later that night, I called her out on it, and her answer simply was puzzling. I asked her why she made that message for me. She gave me a funny look and replied, "James, please. I don't know what you're talking about. I made a message like that a week ago and haven't used M&Ms since." I didn't believe her at first, but it was something in the way she said it that just seemed so convincing. Whatever, I thought. Just got to make it to Christmas, and then this dumb shit will be over with. The next morning, my parents brought Carson to the doctor's, and I was home alone. When I got up, I went downstairs and into the kitchen. I went to get a glass of milk, ignoring the letters on the door. I got my milk, and when I shut the door, I looked at the fridge and dropped it. Milk splattered all over the kitchen floor, while I was still staring at the fridge in sheer horror. The magnetized letter spelled out, "You better watch out." At that point, I wondered whether or not my mother was aware of the fear she was causing me. I still thought she had made this along with the other disturbing messages, but it was unlike her. I thought again to myself, there's no way that fucking elf could be doing this to me. I mean, that's not possible. I couldn't sleep that night. I just lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling. I was beginning to become very paranoid, not wanting to know what was coming next. What other warning I might receive? Was I going crazy? It was a question I pondered for a while lying there, but then I knew. It was about 3 in the morning. I was falling asleep when I heard a sound from the hallway. I ignored it at first, but then it came again and was really starting to scare me. I got up and slowly creaked open my door. I looked down at the dark hallway and not a sound could be heard. I then noticed a thin sliver of light protruding beneath the bathroom door down the hall. I figured it was nothing, but I saw shadows moving from the other side. I took a deep breath and walked down the hall on my tippy toes. I noticed that the door was slightly ajar with the light still on. No one was in there, yet I felt compelled to look inside. I could feel a very cold chill coming from the room. I opened the door and turned my head to face the mirror. I still vividly see the image in my head. There, written in smeared toothpaste on the mirror, read, "You better not cry, I'll show you why." I was frozen in horror, unable to move. I then looked to my left and saw Zippy in the doorway, just watching. Quickly, I tried to run past him, but the rug beneath my feet slipped out from under me. I tumbled backwards and fell hard on the ground. I let out a shriek of pain as I clenched my leg. I turned over and looked. A pair of scissors were sticking halfway out of my thigh. The pain was excruciating. I didn't know how it happened at the time, but I'm certain now that Zippy had placed them there. My mom and dad came rushing into the bathroom, having been woken up from my blood-shivering screams. My dad got the first aid kit from the medicine cabinet after noticing the scissors driven into my leg. I looked up and saw that the mirror displayed nothing but smeared toothpaste. The message was gone and Zippy was nowhere to be found. I was rushed to the ER where they removed the scissors and gave me a tetanus shot. My parents asked me what happened. I told them that it was Zippy and they didn't believe me. My mom became very upset with me, saying that I had broken a promise I made to her. The next night I was lying in bed, unable to fall asleep. For one, my legs still hurt like hell, and 2, I was watching my door, making sure that goddamn elf wouldn't get to me. I then knew I wasn't crazy. That fucking elf was trying to kill me. I eventually passed out several hours later from exhaustion. When I woke, it was still early morning. No one else was awake yet, and I didn't find any need to get out of bed. It was still pretty dark in my room. I shifted my gaze toward my desk, and that's when I saw him. Zippy was standing on my desk, looking at me with those hollow blue eyes, and wearing that undeniable smirk. I couldn't breathe when I saw him, and about crapped myself when I saw he was holding a note. I was still paralyzed by fear, but somehow my body was able to crawl out of bed and walk over to the desk. This time, it was different. The note was handwritten. I looked, and I knew that it was neither of my parents' handwriting. I held my breath, took the note out of his hand, and began to read. "You have been very naughty. You cried when I said not to. Santa doesn't like that." I couldn't take anymore. I took the note with me, walked down the hall, and kicked my parents' door open. My mom woke suddenly when I showed her the note. She became very upset, and color drained from her face. After about a minute, I said, "Mom, Zippy is not what you think he is. He's trying to kill me." I pleaded with her for a while, yet she still didn't believe me. She did, however, become very concerned with my mental state. Later that day, she scheduled an appointment with me to talk to a psychiatrist. It didn't go very well. She said that I was starved for attention and that I was making up these stories about Zippy as a way of reaching out for a reaction. I argued with her, but to no use. After all was said and done, the psychiatrist suggested to my mother that it would be for the best to get rid of Zippy. I don't know how she did, but my mother agreed. Later that day, she disposed of Zippy and had to tell a sob story to Carson. My mother said, "Carson, you have been such a good boy that Zippy doesn't need to watch you anymore. His job here is done, and he needs to go and watch other kids to make sure they will be good as well." My brother was upset, but seemed to understand. Everything returned to normal the next week. Zippy was gone, I was out of school for the holiday, and I finally started to get into the Christmas spirit. Now I can really enjoy Christmas, and my life will be back to normal. That's what I thought anyway, until Christmas Eve. It was night, and I was tired and anxious for the morning to come. Carson and I had just put out milk and cookies for Santa. Not that I still believed in him, but it was fun nonetheless. At bedtime, I fell asleep rather quickly, thinking about my gifts and wondering if I would get everything I wanted. I awoke in the middle of the night to a noise. I lay there silent, trying to listen. It sounded like a whisper coming from outside my door. I shivered. It was the same whisper I had first heard with Zippy. I had nearly forgotten about him since my mother got rid of him. I got up and peeked out of my door. I heard that the whispering was coming from downstairs. I then became very curious. After all, it was Christmas Eve, and in the middle of the night, I hear whispering coming from downstairs. I thought, it couldn't possibly be Santa, could it? I felt silly thinking such a thing. However, it wouldn't hurt to check. A mistake, I still regret. I slowly descended the stairs, anxious as to what I might find. I looked into the living room and couldn't see anything. I walked around the table and looked where we had placed the milk and cookies. They were both partially gone. My mom must have done this after I went up to bed. Everything seemed normal until I noticed a piece of paper under the plate which held the cookies. That's funny, I thought. I hadn't noticed that there before. I went over to the table and picked up the note. I turned it over and began to read. Dear James, you didn't think I had forgotten about you. How could I forget about my favorite child? You see, James, you thought you had gotten rid of me. Your mom simply threw me out with the trash. I can't go out that easily. You see, I've been watching you ever since you first saw me on the coffee table. Since you saw me crack that first smirk at you. All those messages no one else claims to have seen. They were all made by me. It was me, James, the one who watches your every move. I know what you're thinking, but your parents won't help you. No, they won't be able to reach you in time. For you see, I'm in your house now, watching you pounding while sweat runs down your neck. There's no escape from me. How does the old tune go? You better watch out. You better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. I'm why, James. I'm why. See you soon. Sincerely, your pal Zippy. My body shut down. I couldn't breathe. I gasped for breath, but it couldn't reach my lungs. My legs felt like jelly. I was shaking uncontrollably. I dropped the note and darted out of the living room. I sprinted upstairs, and right at the top step I saw a toy train that I knew belonged to Carson. I couldn't stop myself in time. I tripped over the train and tumbled backwards, crashing down the stairs. I lay at the bottom, throbbing in pain and about to lose consciousness. Right before I blacked out, I looked up the flight of steps. Behind the top post, I noticed the faint outline of Zippy with a wide smirk on his face. I woke up the next morning in the hospital. The doctor said I had broken my right arm, one of my ribs, and a leg. My family surrounded me and comforted me. We didn't make it to the part about how I fell down the stairs. Frankly, they were just happy I was still in one piece. After our brief chat, I said I would like some rest. My family agreed and left me be. This is where I tell you the story to you too. This is where I tell this story to you now. I knock on the door. The nurse comes in holding a gift wrap package and a card. Here, James, says the nurse. Someone left this for you in the waiting room. She placed the package and a note on my bedside. I asked who it's from. The nurse replied, I'm not sure. Just that I was told to make sure you hadn't gotten it. She then turned around and left, leaving me alone with my gift. A present, maybe? I said out loud. I looked at the card. It was pretty bare and just said the words, Merry Christmas. I opened it and began to read. Dear James, I thought you might need some company with you while you're in here. You better watch out, 'cause I'm always watching you.